Hi folks, John Cordisco back again. Another game from the tournament I played in, the New York State Open. Played in Lake George, New York. In beautiful upstate New York, especially Lake George area. It's very beautiful. If you saw the first two rounds of my previous videos, rounds 1 and 2, you'll see that I won both of those. If you haven't seen them yet, go back and watch them. This is round 3, the second round on Saturday. Friday night was round 1, Saturday morning was round 2, and this is Saturday evening round 3. I'm white. I'm rated about 1400. My opponent, I'm going to have a hard time pronouncing his first name. Sorry, he's a really good guy. We talked a little bit, and I told him I'd be putting this game on. So I'm going to try to do as best I can with his first name. Anarian, I believe it's spelled, Anarian, something like that, Stevens. He's rated about 1540. So I'm being outrated by a pretty good amount. Let's go through it. An opening I've been using a lot lately as white is Kali, call it the London system. I like it a lot. I'm usually an E4 player, and I've switched, and I've had a lot of good results. Now, I promised the individual that plays black here I would go back and maybe critique this a little bit, not to any kind of expert. Knight to D7 probably isn't a good idea. The light squared bishop is kind of hemmed in. C6, E3, and he moves that knight to get it out there. And I go C3. This is pretty much standard stuff. Not real thrilled on his knight being on D7, but E6. Now you can see that's even more now. This bishop is going to be biting on this pawn to get out. Bishop D3, G6. This surprised me a little bit. Now, I'm not being overly critical of the guy because he's a really good guy, military man, and I always like military guys, especially U.S. military. And he had a great personality, but I just wonder if he's going to watch this video is, if you're going to leave this space open for the bishop, don't weaken your king side and then to bring your bishop there. It's kind of a wasted tempo. So I bring my other knight out. He comes up with his queen. And I said to go H3. I wanted to be able to save my bishop if this knight comes over. He fianchettos, queen to C2. It's pretty good. It's not that big of a deal. Small advantage for me according to the computer off screen. A little more than half a pawn, so it's even. B6. Again, I was really surprised. I think it's kind of an unnecessary pawn move. Frankly, I think he should have just went C5. Or maybe try to get his knight back in the game. Here. Maybe here. Who knows? So B6. And I'm looking at the computer off screen. You can't see it. It likes A4. And for a lot of people that play in London, it uses this type of attack all the time. The A-pawn running up the board. Even though the king probably, black's king, won't be on that side of the board. And it likes me to castle as well as bishop G5. Now, I decided let's go contest that knight, even though he's in a crappy spot. What I'm trying to do is get him to take, then my knight can come back. And then I put my knight here now. That knight's going to be in a really, really good spot. Now, I thought about this for a long time. Time controls are 100 minutes and 40 moves, and then sudden death 30 minutes after that, all with a 10-second increment. And I looked, and I looked, and I looked, and I looked, and I thought to myself, you know, you're never going to be able to win the section unless you take some chances. And I calculated, and I calculated, and I calculated, and I calculated. The move that I made isn't even on the top 3. Let's see if it's even on the top 4 moves. It's not even the top 4 moves. H4, castle long, A4, and castle short are the computer's choices. I went for it and played bishop takes G6. Now, it can't be that bad because I didn't lose very little of my score, if any. It's almost a half pawn advantage now for white. Computer likes pawn takes the bishop, or knight takes E5 are the 2 choices. Anything else is the kiss of death. So he made the second best choice, which is good for him. That's a hard, tough call. Knight takes. I played knight takes. As you can see, of course, if pawn takes, knight takes, forking the... And then what happens, eventually I take the rook. Then this pawn falls. What to do, what to do? He only has one move. And that's take the bishop. And it's basically giving me almost a point advantage. He went rook to F8 and gave this a little bit of thought. And that's going to cause him a lot of grief. To give you an idea what would have happened if pawn takes, knight takes, queen F7, knight takes, bishop takes, castle long. And that's the scenario. And I have a rook and 3 pawns for 2 pieces. Not bad. Not bad at all. I got a crap load of pawns. I've got all 8 of them. But instead he went rook to F8. At this point I debated whether to leave it, of course, and I thought immediately that that wouldn't be a good idea. So I moved the bishop. And now it's interesting. It's about a 2.5 point advantage for white already. Doesn't really look that bad, does it? I mean, he's down a pawn. But the position is really, really overwhelming here. And you're going to see what happens. It was knight to E4. Maybe he should have gone D7. And after knight takes, king takes, and then I castle. But he decided... And I took. He took. Now I didn't want to play queen takes because of this. There's a lot of other things involved as well, but that was bad enough. So I decided to go knight C4, and that was the computer's second choice. Its first choice, believe it or not, was for me to castle long. If queen had taken after C5, queen D3, and I'm still okay, but it just makes it harder for myself. He castles long. Now you're going to see his king ends up, believe it or not, all the way up here. And for me, third choice of the computer was castle long, but queen A4, which I looked at, he just moves the king. I decided to castle long. I wanted my rook on this file. He played B5. I went immediately to A5. Now that knight can't be chased away, except for the queen's the only piece currently that can chase that knight off. And this is where I think he miscues. I know what he was thinking. He played E5. But I think F5 would have suited him a little better. Then I just would have played G4. But after E5, I take the bishop. I probably should have played D takes first. Then after F5, takes in a passant. Bishop takes. Bishop takes. Here. But after king takes, then I took. Takes. Takes. Right now it's over a 3-point advantage on the computer. I'm 2 pawns up for anybody keeping score. Oddly enough, I'm on move 21. I have all 8 pawns. It's not an overwhelming position. It's just a very bad one. How's he going to protect the E-pawn? There's a lot of things. He plays bishop takes, Queen takes. And boy, the guy that taught me years ago how to play. Rook to d7. Gotta have active rooks in the endgame. King comes up. Now I go c4. I want to open up his king position a little bit. And there's a little trap here. He went a6. He probably figures if I take, takes back. But there's a trick. Check. If queen takes, I went c4. If queen takes, rook comes over check and he loses the queen and he sees that and he smiles and shook his head like, oh crap. So he's got to move the king. I just checked him again to move his king up. Comes up, and of course rook checks. He really has nowhere to go. He has to go there. And that's where he resigned. To finish him off would have been queen checks, pawn, and then mate. This is probably the out of the 3 games so far, the most fun I've had. Not because I mated him, is because he was a good guy and we were having some fun, and it just worked out. Like I said, it was a lot more fun because the first 2 were miserable. Both of them tried to pull what I call chicken ship nonsense, and it kind of ruined the game for me. I won them both. This guy had a really good attitude. He was a nice guy, and you could tell he just loved to play. And so if you're watching this, thanks for the game. And so there it is, folks. Round 3 of the New York State Open 2018. I hope you enjoyed it. Those of you who haven't seen the other 2 games, rounds 1 and 2, please do. So now I've won 3 in a row. It's a 5-game tournament. Let's see what I can do. It's a good start. It's a great start. But you never know what can happen. And so until round 4 is posted, as I always say, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.